Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Today we are heading back to Hollywood Studios for another one of our food tours. Let's get started. Disney's Hollywood Studios in Walt Disney World is one of 4 theme parks, and as you know, we've already covered food tours for Epcot and Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, and now we are hitting up the studios. Today we're going to head over to Commissary Lane, Echo Lake, and Grand Avenue in our food tour. So let's start at Commissary Lane. This is that spot when you are basically between the Pixar area and the Star Wars area, and you haven't quite gotten to Muppet Courtyard. That's Commissary Lane. And there's a couple of locations to dine here. The first is ABC Commissary, and ABC Commissary is a counter service location. It is themed to look like the cafeteria that people who work at ABC eat in, I guess. So, you know, if you don't normally eat in a office cafeteria, then it may be somewhat unique to you, but I've never been super excited about the theme or the Imagineering here. It's kind of just a big advertisement for ABC TV shows, basically. The food hasn't been all that great either, but they've been changing up the menu a little bit. Now there's a few interesting things here, unique items that you can't get anywhere else. They added some cheddar jalapeno poppers recently. They've got some interesting vegetarian sides. They've got some burgers, some chicken strips, but they also have some other vegetarian items. They've got chicken and ribs and some salmon. So changes up regularly here at ABC Commissary, but they're playing around with the menu a little bit. I got to give them a little bit of credit. Remember a couple years ago, they had a good curry on there as well. So not my favorite counter service location in Hollywood Studios, and definitely not my favorite counter service location in Disney World, but it's serviceable, so I hope that helps. Okay, next door is Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater, and that is one of the most themed and Imagineered restaurants in Disney World, I think. I have to give them lots of credit for this one. You head inside, and it's basically like you are dining outside at a drive-in theater. Now, I know a lot of you younger folks maybe never went to a drive-in theater, although they're starting to have a little bit of a resurgence right now. I definitely went to drive-in theaters as a kid. You basically drive up in your car, and here in the dine-in theater, you actually sit in convertible cars to eat your meal. And you're watching actual movies or kind of little clips of B movies from the 50s and 60s, and a couple of little Disney special clips as well. So the pros for this restaurant are, really cool theming, really interesting, fascinating Imagineering. You walk around even outside the main dining area, and you'll find some really cool stuff, like backlot kind of stuff. Big jar full of eyeballs and stuff like that for the kind of horror movies that they made back then. But the food here has always been sort of mediocre. Every once in a while there's 1 or 2 menu items that are stellar, but as a general rule, the food here is not going to be the best table service you're going to get. Usually people will say, oh, you go there for the atmosphere. You don't really go there for the food. Again, your kids are going to love dining in those cars. That's really fun. If you have a baby or if you have somebody with mobility issues, maybe a wheelchair, there are a couple of cars that are just the front and the back of a car with an actual table in the middle, so someone can pull a wheelchair up there, or you can put a high chair there, or there are some picnic tables in the back as well with service for any sort of wheelchair or high chair situations. But again, the food here is okay. It's not great. There's usually a couple of good burgers because the chefs from Deluxe Burger over in Disney Springs actually came over to Sci-Fi a couple of months ago, actually last year, I should say. They've got comfort food for sure. They've got pasta, barbecue, ribs, a couple of steaks once in a while, milkshakes, and things like that. That's what you're going to find here at Sci-Fi. One big con to eating here is that it's really, really dark, obviously, because it's supposed to be nighttime. So you may want to use the flashlight feature on your phone to actually read the menu. And this is how old I am, you guys. When I first started reviewing Sci-Fi, I used to talk about bringing a flashlight with you into the restaurant. That was before people had smartphones and before they actually used their smartphone flashlight to do that. So now you have a flashlight with you all the time, so I don't have to make that recommendation that you actually bring one of those keychain flashlights anymore. All right, we're gonna head over to Echo Lake. Okay, Oasis Canteen. This is actually a pretty interesting kiosk. We've been watching this one very closely because they offer some great snack item options that are snack credits on the Disney dining plan. So they have some funnel cakes, one that has strawberry topping with ice cream and chocolate sauce, and one that has vanilla ice cream with cookies and cream and Oreos on top. Those are an insane amount of money. They're like super expensive, but they are are Disney Dining Plan snack credits. So I'm waiting for Disney to catch on and make those not a snack credit anymore. But as long as they are a snack credit, that's a good value. So head over to Oasis Canteen and grab those. Other things you can get here, root beer float, soft serve ice cream, stuff like that. So that's sort of basic. But those, some of those snack items are great value. So keep an eye on Oasis Canteen. That's over near Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular. Gertie's. Gertie's is that big, huge dinosaur, Gertie the dinosaur, in the middle of Echo Lake. And she usually serves things like soft serve ice cream, a couple of little dessert items, Mickey ice cream bars and things like that when she's actually open. And she's not open that often. What's really cool about Gertie's, there's a couple of signs that'll tell you the backstory of Gertie's, and that's really cool. We've got a whole blog post about it over on Disney Food Blog you can go check out. Next up, we'll head over to Dockside Diner. And those of you who are saying, AJ, it's Min and Bill's Dockside Diner. It's not anymore. They've actually taken the Min and Bill's off of the title of the name of the restaurant, although they still have a lot of the really cool theming around, like those fun cargo boxes with the fun addresses and the kind of sight gags there. Definitely want to still check those out. Those are good photo ops. But at Dockside Diner, you're usually going to get milkshakes. They changed the menu up here a little bit, so sometimes you'll get foot-long hot dogs. They have nachos once in a while. For a while, they had those gourmet mac and cheeses. So you never really know what they're going to have here, and they do change it up pretty regularly. This is one of those weird kiosks where they sort of treat it as a testing ground for new food options. So definitely keep an eye on that Dockside Diner menu. Heading over to Backlot Express in the Echo Lake area. This is probably my favorite counter service location in Hollywood Studios. I love the theming. Again, Hollywood Studios is great for theming, you guys. It's kind of like that Animal Kingdom vibe in terms of great Imagineering for their restaurants. Theming is good here. It's basically storage rooms for a backlot on a movie set. So there's lots of cool stuff to wander around and take in. The menu is pretty standard though. Burgers, hot dogs, lemonade, chicken nuggets, French fries, that sort of jam. But what's cool about this, of course, you're right next to the Star Wars area, the current Star Wars area of Hollywood Studios, and this is where you're going to get some Star Wars eats as well. They've got various Star Wars eats, including cupcakes, burgers, chicken and waffles with Darth Vader waffles and things like that. So keep an eye on the menu here. If you have a big Star Wars fan, you'll definitely want to get over to Backlot Express. And 50's Primetime Cafe. This is over on the other side of Echo Lake. This is one of my favorite table service restaurants for both food and theming. The theming here is impeccable. You are sort of dining in mom's kitchen, and so your servers are your cousins or your aunt and uncle, I guess, but mostly it's your cousins. There's a bit of an irreverent vibe here, so if you're not finishing your vegetables, or if you can't remember the color of the soap in the bathroom when you washed your hands or supposedly washed your hands, you may end up finding yourself standing in the corner or singing I'm a Little Teapot in front of the whole restaurant. They take their antics pretty seriously here at 50's Primetime. It's really fun. But as always with restaurants like this, if you're not interested in being part of the show, you just let them know when you sit down that you'd rather just watch. They'll be very chill with you, and don't worry about that. But it is kind of fun if you want to sort of let your server know that if dad puts his elbows on the table, he better go stand in the corner. You know, it's a pretty fun little thing for the kids to see the parents get in trouble. Anyway, the food here at 50's Primetime is pretty good too. Again, it's straight up comfort food. It's not high end, it's not gourmet comfort food, but it's still very good. They have awesome fried chicken here. The pot roast is very good. They have a couple of pot pie options. Note that the kids' pot pie actually comes with little Mickey puffed pastry on top, which is really cute. And by the way, the kids' pot pie here is big enough definitely for an adult appetite. So if you just want to grab the kids' pot pie, that might be a better value for you. One thing I really recommend here is the sampler plate, where you get to try the meatloaf, the fried chicken, and the pot roast all on one plate. That's awesome. Those are three of their top sellers for sure. Desserts here have sort of taken a dive recently. Used to be a main focus of the restaurant that you would get a viewfinder with the dessert menu and be able to click through all the dessert options. And they had some really fun desserts like s'mores and brownie sundaes with a bunch of candy corn on them and caramel corn and M&Ms and stuff. Is really, really cute desserts. Now the desserts are kind of basic. There's a chocolate peanut butter pie that isn't the greatest. There's an apple cobbler that's okay. It's canned apple, but it's pretty good. We can always recommend the malts and milkshakes here, though, and they have a peanut butter and jelly milkshake that's really yummy, and it's a fun one to try if you're a peanut butter fan. But overall, service here is really fun. A lot of the servers have been here for many, many, many years, and so hopefully you have a good time when you visit 50s Primetime. And next to 50s Primetime is Tune-In Lounge. This is the lounge for the restaurant. So if you're solo, if you're wanting to just grab some food on the run and you don't have a reservation, you can order from the full menu over there at Tune-In Lounge. The other table service location in this area of the park is Hollywood and Vine. This is the character meal dining spot in Hollywood Studios. In the mornings, this one is going to have Disney Junior characters. And in the afternoons and evenings, you're going to have the Fab Five. So you're going to have Mickey and Minnie, Donald, Pluto. Your quintessential Disney characters are going to be there in the afternoon and evening. And just FYI, the theme is going to change based on the time of year. So there'll be a holiday dine at Christmas time. They'll have an Easter springtime dine in the spring. So depending on when you're there, the characters will be in different outfits, different clothing, etc. The food here is okay. Again, it's a standard Disney buffet, but the food here has often been a little bit of a cut above other standard Disney buffets. Take that with a grain of salt, though, because these sorts of things change all the time. And definitely let us know in the comments your thoughts on Hollywood and Vine. Did you have a good experience, a bad experience? How was the food when you were there? Definitely let us know so that our viewers can take your recent experiences and make their deductions. And finally, we'll head over to Grand Avenue. This is one of the newest areas of Hollywood Studios. They bulldozed the streets of America for Star Wars Land, Galaxy's Edge, and Grand Avenue was a beneficiary of this as well. So Grand Avenue is brand new, but not all the spots are brand new. The first place we want to talk about is Baseline Tap House. This is a new lounge and bar in the Grand Avenue area. This is going to be your craft beers, specialty wines, ciders, trendy sort of cocktails, like a big city bar they just sort of dropped in the middle of Hollywood Studios. People are really liking it though. There's indoor and outdoor seating. This one replaced Writer's Stop, and if you actually look up at the wall, you can see there's some letters on the wall because Baseline Tap House is supposed to be reminiscent of kind of an old print house. And there's some letters on the wall, and they are actually the letters from the sign of Writer's Stop, the Writer's Stop sign, and you can see that it spells out Writer's Stop up there, which is kind of fun. A little history on this one. This location has always had something to do with printing or books. It started when Hollywood Studios opened as Ellen's Buy the Book. If you guys remember, it was a bookstore for a very long time. Then Writer's Stop sort of came in, and they brought in the coffees and the pastries, but it was still the bookstore. And now it is Baseline Tap House with the book printing aspect to it. So they've sort of kept that theme imagineered through this location the whole time, which is kind of fun. Food here is relatively non-existent, but they have a couple of items. They have a good charcuterie board, big old pretzel. They've got some steak puffs now, whatever a steak puff is. It's kind of fancy pub grub, I guess, is what you're going to get at Baseline, but there's not a huge menu. This is mostly for craft beers. Next up, Pizza Rizzo. That's over in Muppets Courtyard. And we've talked about Pizza Rizzo before. We don't love the pizza at Pizza Rizzo. It's not my favorite pizza in Disney World for sure. It's that pillowy, real doughy counter service pizza. But it's an interesting theme for sure. Again, it's Rizzo from the Muppets. So it's all New York City themed, and it's kind of fun if you're a fan of New York or if you've lived in New York. Otherwise, it's kind of boring, honestly. Not super great pizza. And finally, Mama Melrose. Mama Melrose's is one of my favorite restaurants in Disney World. They do a really good job. I think the service is excellent here. Believe it or not, the food is pretty decent too. The theming here is weird. It's like a Italian immigrant moves to California or something, and so it's like a California vibe meets New York at Little Italy, I guess. That's the deal. Maybe you can figure it out more than I can, but they have some really good Italian food here. It's definitely comfort food, nothing fancy. They have a great steak with some awesome mac and cheese. They took off the menu for a little while and they brought it back. They're always doing some good stuff here at Mama Melrose. I really like it. I'm going to stand by that. Let us know in the comments what you think. So that's our second Hollywood Studios food tour. A lot of information covered here. Please let us know what you think. Let us know your favorites in Hollywood Studios and what you're anticipating when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opens. It's going to be awesome. Let us know in the comments what you're excited about when Star Wars opens. Please like and subscribe to the channel. We want to make sure you know when we put out new content. Don't forget to let us know in the comments what you want to see from DFB Guide. This is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.